I'm Randy Crone, President of Indiana Farm Bureau. As Congress begins discussion about the 2018 Farm Bill, Brownfield Ag News and Indiana Farm Bureau have partnered in this informational series to provide you the information you need to better understand key areas of the Farm Bill. Each Farm Bill Task Force video will take a closer look at a few different areas of the Farm Bill, including Ark County program, conservation programs, the Marginal Protection Program, and crop insurance. We hope you find this educational series valuable as we move forward in these discussions. We are committed to supporting Indiana's farmers and engaging them in the process for the 2018 Farm Bill, and we want you to help lead the effort in getting things done for the best interest of Indiana agriculture.
Hi, I'm Brownfield News Anchor reporter Megan Grebner. Today, we've been talking about the 2018 Farm Bill. We're going to get into a little bit about the conservation title of the Farm Bill. With us to talk about conservation is Jake Smoker, who's a farmer in Northwest Indiana. Hi, Jake.
Hi.
To get started, let's talk a little bit about why conservation is important to you as a farmer.
Oh, conservation. Farmers have always been the original conservationists. You know, our livelihood comes from making sure that the land is well taken care of for. So it's only natural that conservation should be part of the Farm Bill and has been for quite a long time. So it's an important aspect, and it's something that should definitely be considered for this upcoming Farm Bill as well.
As we get into the discussions about the 2018 Farm Bill and how conservation plays a vital role in it, what are some things that Indiana farmers and Hoosier farmers need to keep in mind when they're having conversations and about the shaping of the 2018 Farm Bill?
Sure. The conservation portion, while we think of it and we see it as a big portion, it's actually a very small portion of the total Farm Bill. It's really only about 6% of the total Farm Bill, and in 2014 it represented 13% of the subsidies in the United States. Of Indiana's total, the subsidies in 2014 were about 14% of the farm side of the subsidies. So it's actually a very small portion, but it is a critical portion when it comes to making sure that we're sustaining ourselves for the not only my generation, but my daughter's generation, and generations beyond that as well.
Jake, as we talk about conservation, Indiana is a leader in the country and in implementing some of those conservation programs. What are some, as we get into the conservation title, what are some of those areas and some of those programs that remain vitally important and need to remain important for 2018?
Sure. We're all familiar with programs like the CRP, the Conservation Reserve Program, and 59% of Indiana's money went to that program. Now, it's a very important program, but Indiana on total is really only about $38 million worth of federal money goes to all of these different programs, CRP being one of them. Other programs are like the EQIP program, that's the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. And that's other things like wildlife habitat incentive programs, or the WIP, was combined into that. So 28%, and the rest, the 11%, went towards conservation stewardship programs. All of these are important, and I think every farmer has been touched by them at some point, or they've known a farmer, a colleague that has been touched by them. And in today's day and age where commodity prices are depressed and livestock prices are depressed, farmers are almost relying on these a little bit more now too, that these are becoming even a bigger portion in our layout of cash flow and things like that. And as we start to think about, not only our balance sheets, but then also the conservation side of it, we can really start to come together and make a good balance between the two of them. Seeing ground that may or may not be feasible for production, it may be a good option to go into a CRP kind of situation, or use these funds for EQIP, for irrigation, and actually building the land and making it more profitable for us in the future.
That was my next question. When we look at programs like these, how can farmers like yourself benefit from these conservation programs and increasing efficiencies, maybe maximizing returns on investment to help lift up profits or profit margins in times where commodity prices really and livestock prices are struggling so much.
And that's the biggest thing is we're turning more from we have to farm fence row to fence row, and we're turning more to utilizing the acres that we've got and making sure that those acres that are productive acres are used as most efficiently as possible. As far as we're concerned, it's utilizing your resources like nitrogen and phosphorus and those kind of things, controlling them, using them to their full potential, not leaving any extra on the table that could go elsewhere, but then also utilizing these programs and the resources that are there to help craft, if it's an irrigation scheduling and making sure that those kind of, an irrigator is nozzled correctly, or if it's, taking ground that's highly erodible and maybe putting it out of production for a few years. That not only does that, decrease, your marginal ground, but it's also helping to build that ground up as well, maybe providing wildlife habitats and things like that, and things that I'm sure every farmer is conscious of, as we are kind of the on the ground level. We're the stewards of the land in Indiana.
Jake, as these discussions formulate around the 2018 Farm Bill, what are some of the biggest concerns that Indiana farmers have potentially for the Farm Bill? And then we'll talk a little bit about how Hoosier farmers can get engaged.
Sure. The issues coming up in 2018, and it's hard to believe that we're already speaking about 2018, even though we're only a couple years into this last Farm Bill cycle, but it is very important. A lot of things, it's going to come down to budget considerations in Congress, and where farmers are deciding where to prioritize conservation. And we had talked about that earlier, but also farmers prioritizing the conservation programs over crop insurance and commodity programs. All of that's going to play into the next Farm Bill. Other things, we talked about CRP. There are declining acreage caps and other factors in those programs. We saw from the last Farm Bill to now, a decrease from 32 million acres down to 24 million acres. So ground that is going into CRP is becoming more competitive now. That is an attractive option because of the decline in commodity prices, but it's also becoming a more competitive program to get acres into because of that decrease and the funding not being there. Also, just the conservation compliance requirements for crop insurance. There's a lot of additional issues and labor requirements that are put onto the burden that's put onto the farmers specifically, and making sure that we're in compliance, making sure that those kind of things are taken care of. We need to be thinking about that. How can we reduce the regulation, reduce the compliance that's needed, and basically the forms and paperwork end of it to get these programs implemented. And lastly, the EQIP and the CSP's programs have been helpful. But there's a possibility to increase those offerings, making more people aware about them. Indiana's not a big one on the EQIP. We are very big on the CRP, but not a lot of people utilize the EQIP side of things. So maybe getting the word out more on those kind of programs, continue to further utilize those programs, and making sure that everybody is aware of all the programs that are involved in the Farm Bill.
Jake, as you look at some of the programs that Indiana Farm Bureau is working with, and an educational series that they're working with Indiana farmers, what is the best way for Hoosiers to make sure their voice is heard as Congress continues to have these conversations, and as we start to see that Farm Bill shape up a little bit more?
Well, see, that's the great thing about Farm Bureau is we are a grassroots organization. Our members are the ones that are the key to making sure that our legislators, everybody in Congress, is hearing the message that the farmers have. Because we're grassroots, it has to come directly from the membership, and that is the most impactful kind of organization. And way we get things done is coming from people on the ground that see it every day and getting involved in the process and telling their congressmen, their reps, their senators, not only on a state level, on a federal level, making sure that everybody is aware of what's going on, what are the needs of the farmer, and kind of telling our story too. Indiana is leading the nation in soil health. We're second in the nation in cover crop usage, and it lends to a lot of the great things that have been going on in Indiana. And we need to make sure that people are aware of that and that we're taking care of the land. We need to be making sure that not only our congressmen and senators, but everybody knows about the great strides that Indiana has been making in conservation.
Jake, anything else?
No, I just encourage everybody, get in touch with your congressmen, your legislators, make sure that they're aware of what's going on, and make sure your voice gets heard. That's the great thing about Farm Bureau, and just get involved in the process.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
I'm Megan Grebner on Brownfield.